Hi everyone, Miss Pellegrino here. In this video, we're going to be multiplying decimals. Let's get started. Our first example is, a car travels 1 and 2500th miles in 1 minute. How far will it travel in 5 minutes? I want you to try this problem on your own first. Think about all the strategies we've learned for multiplying, and think about all the work we've done with decimals, and try it out. What do you think the answer will be? Pause the video and try it yourself. Okay, let's take a look. There are a couple different ways that we could solve a problem like this. I'm going to show you one method for multiplying a decimal today, and we'll look at some more methods later this week and next week. I have here a car that's traveling 1 and 2500th miles in 1 minute, and I want 5 minutes. So I know I need to multiply, because for 5 minutes it's traveling 1 and 2500ths each minute. To multiply a decimal, we can start out by just multiplying like we would regular. 5 times 5 gives me 25. 5 times 2 gives me 10, plus 2 gives me 12. And 5 times 1 plus 1 gives me 6. So I end up with 625. That just leaves me with my decimal point. I have to figure out, where does it go down here? Well, we can use our estimating to tell us where to put our decimal point. How so? Well, if I estimate this problem, I have 1 and 2500ths. That's about 1. The 5 can stay a 5. So my answer should be about 5. So by estimating this problem, I get an about answer. Where can I place my decimal point on this 625 to give me an answer that is close to my estimate? Pause the video for a moment and think about it. Where could my decimal point go to give me an answer that's close to 5? If I put my decimal point right here after the 6, I end up with 6 and 2500ths, which is pretty close to 5. And if you're having trouble with the decimals, try thinking about it with dollars and cents. $6.25 is pretty close to $5. Therefore, I know my decimal point should go right here, and I can say that this car will have traveled 6 and 2500th miles in 5 minutes. Let's try another example. Let's take that same car, and this time, let's figure out how far it will travel in 1 hour. First off, let's set up our problem. I know it can travel 1 and 2500th miles in 1 minute. How far can it travel in 1 hour? Well, how many minutes are in 1 hour? Do you guys remember? There are 60 minutes in 1 hour, so I know I'm multiplying 1 and 2500ths by 60. Just like before, I'm going to solve this problem as if there was no decimal here. So let's ignore the decimal for now and just solve it using our regular multiplication. We have a 0 here, so I know there's going to be a 0 down below. Then I can multiply. 6 times 5 gives me 30. 6 times 2 plus 1 gives me 15. And 6 times 1 plus 1 gives me 7. So I end up with 7,500 as my answer. But now I need to figure out where this decimal is going to go. So let's use our estimating just like we did before. This 1 and 2500ths would still round to 1. It's close to 1. And this 60 is already an easy number to work with, so we'll just leave that. And we end up with an estimate of 1 times 60, which gives me 60. So from my estimate, I know that my answer should be about 60. Where can I place a decimal point on my answer here to give me a number that's about 60? Pause the video for a moment and think about it. Where could that decimal go to give me an answer that's close to my estimate? I can put my decimal point right here after the 5 to end up with 75 and 0 hundredths, or just 75. 75 is close to 60. So I can say that the car will travel 75 miles in 1 hour. So that's 75 miles per hour. He must be on an interstate. So again, we are using our estimating to figure out where to put our decimal point. Let's try one more example and then I'll give you one to do. In this example, we're switching gears from cars to a backyard. Josie's yard is 7 1/10 yards long and 9 8/10 yards wide. What is the area of her yard? Remember that area means we're multiplying the length times the width. So we want to multiply the two sides of Josie's yard. We know one side is 7.1 yards and the other is 9.8 yards. So let's multiply those. Just like before, we want to start by multiplying them as if there's no decimal points. So I'm going to ignore the decimal points and just solve this problem the same way I would solve any other multiplication problem. I'll start with my ones place. 8 times 1 gives me 8. 8 times 7 gives me 56. I'll move on to my next place. Oh, I'm sorry, I called that my ones place. That's my 10th place. I'll move on to my next place. Let's multiply that 9. Just like when we did multiplication before, we're going to put a 0 down below and then multiply by 9. 9 times 1 gives me 9, and 9 times 7 gives me 63. What do we do with our two partial products? We remember that we need to add those. So we end up with 6,958. And I'm going to write that up here to make it a little bit easier to see. Now, we have our digits. We know what our answer should be. But now we need to go back and figure out where is our decimal point going to go. This one's a little trickier than the last couples. So let's see if we can figure this out using an estimate. If I estimated this problem, I would say 7 1/10 is about 7, and 9 8/10 is about 10. So I end up with 7 times 10. What is 7 times 10? 70. So I end up with an estimate of about 70. Where can I place a decimal point on this answer that will give me something that's close to 70? Think about what we know with our decimals. If you said we could place the decimal point between the 9 and the 5, you got it. 69 58 hundredths is very, very close to 70. So the decimal point must go here. And that is how we can use an estimate to place our decimal point. You try. For this last example, try it on your own. Pause the video and use scratch paper or a whiteboard if you need it. I'll give you a moment. Okay, if you haven't finished this problem yet, pause the video so that you have as much time as you need. Otherwise, let's look at it together. A class is doing a fundraiser. Each person brings $2.90 to school. If there are 20 kids in the class, how much money did they raise? Well, we have $2.90 being brought by each person, and there are 20 people bringing in that money. So we know we're multiplying because we do have that each. So let's go ahead and multiply this. I have a 0, so I know my answer is going to have a 0 down below, and then I can just multiply straight across. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 9 is 18. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. I end up with 5,800. That would be a lot of money for 20 kids to raise. So let's use estimates to place our decimal and see where this decimal point is going to go down below. So let's grab another color here. $2.90 is really close to $3. We can round that. And 20 is still easy to work with, so we'll keep that number. We end up with 3 times 20, which gives me about 60. So where can I place my decimal point on this number to give me an answer that is close to my estimate of 60. I could place it right here after the 8. That gives me 58 and 0 cents, which is really close to 60. Add my dollar sign, and I've got it. So to summarize, when you're multiplying with decimals, multiply it as if there was no decimal point there. Just use your regular multiplication skills. Then use an estimate to help you place your decimal point. That's it for today's video. Good luck on the assignment. It will have problems just like these. Just follow those same steps. Bye, everyone.